All right, great. Well, it's not too bad. We're only 15 minutes late. It's not a problem. So let me do the official introductions first before we dig into this. This is the what we call the Author Shout Out podcast, and it's part of International Writers Inspiring Change, which is the platform where we promote authors and their books. And I think you probably know we have our mission at here at IWIC is to basically promote literacy and reading in the world, and help put authors in front of more readers. And today we are going to interview Else Byskov. Is it Byskov? Is that how you say
Yes,
it?
that's right. Yeah.
Okay, great. And are you currently in Denmark, or are you in Spain now?
I'm in Denmark now, but
Okay.
normally I live in Spain. But we spend summers in Denmark.
Yeah, it's like Sweden, where I am right now.
You are in Sweden?
Yeah, we're in Spain. Yeah, we're headquartered in Sweden. We're up near Gothenburg.
Oh, I see. Perfect.
I'm not from Sweden, but there you go.
Yeah.
So I'm the interviewer, the host. My name is Riel LaPlane, and I'm an author. And I do hosting for the podcast. I also do reviews for IWIC. So you get to talk to me today. I actually have I believe I read one of your books, which was mentioned in the announcement we made about the upcoming podcast.
The downfall of marriage.
The downfall of marriage, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was some years ago that I read that book.
Yeah, that's true. It has been out, I think, 5 or 6 years. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So we won't focus particularly on that book, although we'll touch on it a little bit. I think we're going to be talking more about your new book. So
yeah.
But let's start off by let's find out who Else Byskov is.
Yes, I'm Danish, and I was born in 1950, and I grew up in a Protestant country, and I didn't like the religion I was brought up with. It made no sense to me, because we were told we were created by God, but it was our own fault if we were sinners. So how did that make sense? And there were many other things that didn't make sense to me, like, for instance, why would a loving God, we were told that God was very loving, why would he crucify his only beloved son in order to be able to forgive a bunch of miscreants and killers? So even though I was only a child, I was thinking, this makes no sense to me. So I soon realized that I couldn't believe in that God. It was not for me. So I became an atheist, and I was a searching soul for many years, but I didn't look into Buddhism or Hinduism or other religions. I just thought religions they're not for me. But then in 1995, I was so lucky to come across the work of the Danish visionary and intuitive called Martinus. And I'd never heard about him, but suddenly I knew intuitively when I saw this book about him that this was where my search ended. And it simply confirms the old word that search and you shall find. So I read Martinus's complete works, which is 10,000 pages. Like a
10,000 pages in one book?
No. In 30-something books.
Oh my God, okay.
Yeah, and like a starving wolf, I was simply so enthusiastic about it. It was every question that I had asked was there. Every answer to every question was there. It was just so such an amazing thing for me to find his work. So as soon as I had read his two main works, which is called Livets Bog, the Book of Life, and the other book is called The Eternal World Picture, 7 and 6 volumes respectively. I thought, this is amazing. I have to tell somebody about it. And I wrote my first book it came out in the States in 2002, and it's called Death is an Illusion. And it's a general introduction to Martinus's worldview. And
what did you do? Did you sort of like just give a narrative that explained what he wrote, or was there an actual story to it?
No, it was documentary, if I can put it like that. Like I was just explaining who he was, where he came from. He came from Jutland, where I'm sitting now, from very, very poor circumstances. He didn't know his father. There's a lot of things that are extraordinary about him, but he was also a very extraordinary child, and he had a very close relationship to God. And again, he did not like accept in any way the Christian, the church way, the church's way of explaining religion. He did not like that, but he had a close relationship to God. Anyway, there was no money for him to be educated, so he became a dairyman, and he worked as a dairyman until just before his 30th birthday, he moved to Copenhagen, where he was still employed as a dairyman. And one day somebody had told him about meditation, so he sat down in his vicar chair to meditate on the concept of God. And immediately he felt that he was pulled out of his physical body, and he was placed in front of something very divine. And he saw like a white light, and he saw Christ coming towards him in a vision. And he could see the earth turn around. He could see valleys and seas and ships, and at a certain point it became too much for him. So he had to get out of his chair and pull off his blindfold. And like he was just totally astounded. But then, of course, he thought that was very interesting. So the next day he tried again. And this was like a golden, the first was like, we call it the white birth. And the next day it was the golden birth. He saw like a sea of golden threads. And he felt that he had never been so high. He had never seen anything or been in contact with anything this divine and enlightened. So that was the start of his enlightenment.
And he wrote his books we're talking back in the turn of the century, right?
Yeah, that was in 1921.
1921, is that the first book?
Yes, that was when he had his initiation. And he afterwards he realized that he had achieved cosmic consciousness, which means that he could see beyond the physical world, and he could see into the spiritual world that lies behind, beyond, before the physical world. And whenever he had a question, the answer came to him like this. He had simply achieved direct access to this intuitive sea of knowledge that the universe is also. So it was on the basis of this that he was able to reveal his world picture, as consisting of 10,000 pages and 100 symbols. The symbols are sort of drawings, very beautiful drawings that illustrate this aspects of the spiritual world. I mean, it's so overwhelming and so surprising that I still have no words for it. Anyway, that changed his life.
Does he have a great following from that?
No.
He doesn't, right?
He never had he had a following, but it was very limited. And that was the whole idea. The whole idea, he revealed himself, was that he was born in Denmark, because Denmark was a country so far away from having any idea of a spiritual reality that he would be left in peace. He could be left in peace there because he had to spend his time working and revealing his cosmology, he called it, or spiritual science. And as I said, it resulted in all these books. And it is a world picture so mind-blowing that it totally like rejects, I won't say it rejects it, but it is a total expansion of the way we look upon the universe and God, for that matter.
So what was it about?
It's about,
I mean, obviously out of 10,000.
I think the main thing,
what was the main thing that really caught you?
It was that death is an illusion. that
Death
of
is an
course,
illusion.
yes, of course I had heard that from religion that we when we die, we move on and we will have eternal life. But Martinez says that something that is eternal has no beginning and no ending. If it had that, then it wouldn't be eternal. So we are, instead of like saying we live this life and then we become eternal, that's nonsense. We are already eternal, and this life is not the only life we live. And but
So you're saying that he believes that if we just cycle through constant lifetime after lifetime, basically.
what I didn't hear you.
It is his theory, is his statement that basically we cycle through lifetime after lifetime, like we are eternal beings. We don't ever.
Exactly. But we don't only live one physical life as the current or the mainstream narrative wants us to believe. We live a whole series of lives. We have so many lives behind us, and we have many, many lives in front of us, physical lives, and also lives where we only live as spiritual beings. The thing is,
I'm just curious now, just so I don't lose this thread. Does he expound on in his books why it is that the culture around us, I mean, obviously religion and the mediocrity at his time, why are they always pushing the one life concept?
Yes, he does explain it. He explains it in the way that we now have materialistic science, and materialistic science is based on intelligence. And when you are like working with your intelligence, you don't have any vision, you don't have any access to the spirit, to the intuitive level. So, and the materialistic science tells us that only physical matter exists. So we are identical to our physical body. And when that body dies, it's lights out. We're done.
So essentially, he's saying that the culture, the scientific culture, the intelligentsia is marginalizing us into just a sort of a box. This is
yes, it's a box, and we become, as we evolve, we evolve from the animal kingdom, and we are still relatively primitive. But as we evolve, we become more and more advanced, and we become more and more intuitive. And in order to be able to understand Martinez's work, you have to have a certain amount of intuition in your own consciousness. I mean, you cannot, if you have no intuition at all, it will not appeal to you. He would just say, "Oh, no, that's just nonsense. I am identical to this body, and when I die, it's lights out." But Martinez says that theory, the one life theory, has never been proved, and nobody has ever been able to confirm that nothing survives the death of the physical body. And Martinez is very clear about what this is, that survives. What survives is our consciousness. Our consciousness is a field of energy, and energy is eternal. It cannot be created. It cannot be dissolved. And this is confirmed by the science of physics, that there's something called the law of the conservation of energy. So we are really...
No energy is ever lost in this universe.
No, exactly. So what we have in our aura, and our aura is already pretty well defined, and a lot of people have written about the chakras of the aura, and the aura is actually visible. You can photograph it using the Kirlian photography. Anyway, we are our consciousness. We are not this body. The body is an instrument that the consciousness uses for its sojourn on the physical plane, because we all need to experience contrast. So we are first and foremost electrical beings. We are an electrical field of energy. That is who we are, and this field of energy is identical not only to our consciousness, but also to our life force.
But it couldn't be an electrical energy that's the same as physical energy, because it has to be something higher than that, because otherwise science would have detected it by now.
There are many levels of energy.
Right.
And our consciousness is this high level of energy, and that is what gives life to the physical body. So when we reincarnate, our spiritual body, we can call it that, reincarnates into the egg and the sperm cell. It is the spiritual body that defines and creates the new body, the new physical body in the womb. The egg and the sperm cell are not enough because they don't have enough information. But the consciousness has all the information. All the information it has accumulated over a long, long series of previous lives. So for each life we live, we're still the same, and we have everything we have learned in all our previous lives is still with us. It is preserved in our consciousness in what Martinus calls our fate element. So for each life we live, we add experiences, we add learning, we add wisdom, and we simply become more and more evolved. But not everybody. Yes.
But he must not have been very popular with the religions and such, or just the culture of his time.
No,
right?
no. The religions they did not. But he was so little known that it was not a problem. It wasn't a problem. I mean, he attracted the right kind of people who could follow his thinking. And there were maybe, when he died, I think there were 5,000 Danes who attended his funeral. So that was quite a lot. But while he was only beginning with his work and writing and all that, there were maybe only 100 or maybe 50 people who knew about him, who had heard about him, and who supported him.
So he became more popular through his writings were distributed or published at the time, right?
Yeah, but they were. It was his first book, the first volume of Livsbog, was only published in 1932. So it took some time for him to get his act together and start writing. And it only sold maybe 500 copies in his lifetime. But he didn't worry about that because he knew that he was not writing for his contemporaries. He was writing for the future. And he knew that there were very few people on the planet that were able to understand his writing.
Would you say there are more people? Does he have more followers today? Is there a following
It's still quite limited. It is really still quite limited. I mean, translators, his work is huge, and it is very difficult to translate because it has been written he was an unread person, and he wrote with the way he thought, and sometimes his sentences would fill half pages, and it's not so easily accessible. But when you are ready, when you have reached the point where you are ready to read it, it's easy to read. So it's like being protected, because he also said, my work should not come out to people who are not ready for it, because it will only be ridiculed. And he said we should never offer answers to questions that people have not yet asked themselves. So when you have to be a searching soul, if you know what I mean, you have to be looking for the answers, and then it makes so much sense what he writes.
How did you said you first came across him in 95? Was it like in a bookstore? You found the book or something?
No, it was when we had moved to Spain. My husband had bought a volume of 4 books called The Intuitive Thought. And in this, there was one of the volumes had maybe 50 pages about Martinus. And I came across exactly that volume when our books had been sent down to Spain. I opened the box, and there it was on the top. I picked it up and I said, this is where my search ends. So I knew that intuitively, and that was absolutely true. So, I've now written 11 books about aspects of Martinus's work, but there are so many aspects that you could just go on writing, but it's also the whole question of marketing and getting the message out there. And writing is the easy part. It's getting it out and getting the people to know.
Of course, we know that here at IWIC. That's why we set up this platform, because it is not the easiest, and there's an ocean of books coming out every year too. So the competition
is enormous. Yeah,
enormous to capture people's attention.
It's just like a jungle.
Challenging.
Yeah. And funnily enough, my books, I wrote them in English because I have a minor university degree in English. And I thought I write them in English because they are already out in Danish. But funnily enough, my books have more success in Denmark than they do in the English-speaking world. And I'm not sure why, because the Danes can just read the Martinus's original work, but to many people it's quite inaccessible. So what I do is try to explain it in a more easily understandable way.
It's a little more contemporary. It's a little more contemporary. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I mean, this whole thing about not living only this life and being able to experience beyond death, and not experience via your physical body, but experience via your spiritual body, has been confirmed now in so many cases. I mean, there's so much stuff out there, like the near-death experience, children who remember past lives, and the enormously healing effect of regression therapy. So there's a lot of, like, if I can call it, earthly sciences that are supporting what Martinus says, and they fit together just like this.
All right.
So it's very fascinating.
No, it is a fascinating field. Does he talk about out-of-body experiences in his writing at all?
No.
Does he experience that? He doesn't. Okay.
No. He explains he has written 28 small books, and one of the books is called The Road to Paradise, and in that he explains exactly what happens when we die, where we go, whom we meet, what we do while we are discarnate, and he also explains how reincarnation takes place, like in a technical way. The technicalities of reincarnation has been explained in one of his symbols. I think it's symbol number 26 or something. Anyway, so it's all very clear. He has just made it so clear. And what is particular about his work is it is so logical. It appeals to our intellect, and it is really spiritual nourishment for people living today in a modern world with a scientific outlook. It's like
what you described. It's a cosmic awareness. You have to come up to that level,
yes,
or at least yearning that level of insight.
Yeah,
for this to make sense.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, once you have understood that his work is not a new religion, because a religion is based on faith, and Martinus's work is not an object of faith. It is an object of study. You must study it. You must see if what he writes does not coincide with what you can see out there in the physical world. And I mean, I've been studying it now for 30 years, and I've not seen one aspect that is not being confirmed in the physical world. So it is. I mean,
we have to keep in mind that the culture back then and the culture today, even though possibly people are more open-minded and it's a little less about the religious obsession with religion, the fact remains that the culture pushes a one lifetime perspective.
Absolutely.
We're not taught in school that we are eternal beings.
No, we're not taught.
That would go against the narrative
at all. But Martinus himself, he says that his work will be taught in school in 200 years.
Yeah,
so we are only beginning. We are only beginning now. And of course, it's fascinating to be a pioneer, but it's also very frustrating, because you have this enormous piece of work. It is so mind-blowing. It is so interesting and fascinating. And like, who wants to learn about this? So, but I'm soldiering on, because I know that its time will come. And its time will come within the next 300 to 500 years, I would say.
Yeah, but that is the whole thing about being a visionary. You are ahead of the curve, and so your books will probably have the same effect as social consciousness rises, which we hope happens in the world.
So it's just a question of
yeah, then your books will come into the spotlight. It won't just be about murders and thrillers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's just a question of whether I will experience it in this lifetime. I doubt it, but never mind. Who
well,
cares?
next lifetime you pick up the book and you go, hey,
Yeah.
I know that
Oh, I
author.
wrote that. Yeah, okay. That's putting it a bit simple, but anyway, I can rewrite them then.
No, but I think it's fascinating that like the book you wrote about death is an illusion, but his concept that it is an illusion because it's a bit of a counterculture when you think about it. It's a counterculture against the current cultural, even religions, although they claim that we're spiritual in nature or we're souls, they're always talking about it. The road ends somewhere in a paradisal place like heaven or nirvana or something. And
exactly.
that's just not the truth.
Well, it's part of the truth.
It's part of it.
But what Martinez reveals is the whole picture. I mean, at a certain point, we stop reincarnating in physical matter because we have learned all there is to learn on the physical plane this time around. But as we move through eternity, we move in cycles. So we have one cycle, and then once we have completed that cycle, we step up one rank to a higher level, and so on. So we have in this cycle, we started as primitive plants, and then we became animals, and then we became primitive human beings, and then we became more advanced human beings. And today we are relatively advanced human beings, but we are not finished human beings. We are only half finished because why are we not finished? Why can't we say that we are finished? Because we are still hurt, harm, we are greedy. Greed is controlling the world. We kill to eat, and we harm our neighbor. We don't have love in our hearts. We're so selfish. We're only thinking about our own glorification on the physical plane. And I mean, this is a step on the way, no doubt about it. But we are not finished. We are finished human beings the day we can all only emanate universal love. We can serve our fellow, not only fellow humans, but every living being on the planet. We have respect for these beings. We respect the planet, which is also a living being, as is the solar system, as is the sun, as is the galaxy.
Oh, well, that's great. I mean, as an author, I write books that resonate that same concept. That's why I'm sort of stepping in here and agreeing with you, because I also have the same perspective that we're not finite beings at all, and this is just we're just a blip in time on this particular body. It serves our purpose, but we've been doing it for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, I mean, we are in the body as long as it is workable. And the idea is to get as much mileage out of this body as possible. I mean, there's no point in killing it with drugs and alcohol and tobacco, because that is counterproductive, obviously. We should live in it as long as we can. And then when we are ready, we leave it. We move on to the spiritual plane, where we stay for about as long as we have been living on the physical plane. So let's say if we die when we're 80, we will stay on the spiritual plane for about 80 years. Then we go back. If we die when we are children, if we die as soldiers, we will come back after maybe 7 years. Martinez says soldiers will normally come back after 7 years, because their life was cut short and they are eager to reincarnate. So anyway, and it goes on and on and on it goes until.
So I mean, it seems that while he's presenting all of this, he's really trying to raise social social consciousness.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what it's really all about, is to raise
it is
to the point where what he says people will start to identify with. But social consciousness seems to be the real element here.
Yeah, it is, because he says that we should live to serve others. We should be a joy and a pleasure for the existence of other people. We should help, we should support, we should show compassion. We should do all those things that we were told to do, but are still not able to. I mean, the way the greed is ruling the world at the moment, it's just painful to see, really. But of course, it will come to an end. It will come to an end when enough people on the planet have reached the point where they have become peaceful, where they can no longer go to war and have no interest in exploiting others and all that. And that
it's an
we are
interesting
very
concept.
close. Sorry?
It's an interesting thing I find, and I think I wrote this in one article that I wrote, but I can really identify with this point that you just said, that people will not want to go to war, because when you think about it, if you not believe, but if you know that you're an eternal being, that you're not going to die, that you're going to just basically go on living forever, then the impulse to fight people or destroy anything suddenly becomes relatively insignificant, because you're not fighting for one lifetime survival.
Absolutely. And remember that in your fate element, you don't have active memories of your former lives, but in your fate element, you have the effects of these former lives, what they did to your feeling body. And when you have died in wars, let's say 10 times, over 10 different lifetimes, you are so fed up with war. When you reincarnate, you are so fed up with war that you simply cannot be subscribed, or whatever it's called. So you don't want to go into another uniform. So you become a conscientious objector. And I think we see it already in Russia when they have tried to muster more soldiers. They flee to other countries. They flee to the neighboring countries. So they have to import soldiers from North Korea or China or wherever they come from, because so many, not only young men, but also now we have women not subscription, but anyway, in Denmark, for instance, we have female soldiers.
Recruits, yeah.
Yeah, recruits. And because there are simply not, the men are those who have had all these experiences with war, and they're simply fed up with it. They cannot be recruited any longer. And so they become peacemakers. They work for, not only for peace, which of course they work for, but they also work for equality and the just distribution of the wealth of the planet, and all those things that will, in the end, define a real human being, which will be a person who can only emanate universal love.
Yeah. So they become basically more altruistically oriented as opposed to.
No.
I mean, because war, as we know, certainly is not an advanced or high level thing. It is simply shooting bullets at somebody according to somebody's agenda, and it usually has to do with land grabs, and that's it.
Yeah. But the good thing is about war is, as I just said, it generates peacemakers.
Yeah,
eventually.
Of course.
Eventually, I mean, enough wars and you're done with it. Oh. And there will be a time, and that is very close, if it's not already upon us, that the half of the population of the planet are already peacemakers and have had enough of war. And the other half is still like warmongers. But the moment that the peacemakers reach critical mass and become the majority, things will begin to move really quickly. And Martinez predicts that in 300 years, the last war will be fought on this planet, and that's it. That's simply it. Then we will start to create a real human kingdom on this planet, where everybody is there to help everybody and help the planet advance. And yeah, we will all become.
Now that is something to look forward to.
It is indeed.
So, in our future lives, we can say, well, maybe next 2 or 3 lifetimes, we can actually live in a world that is a peaceful world, and not all this stuff that we see going on in Russia or Ukraine or Gaza.
I think for the most advanced, it will only be 3 or 4 incarnations until they will be the ones that will be steering be at the steering wheel of the planet. Because once we have enough enlightened beings, and we're all on the road to being enlightened beings and achieving cosmic consciousness. Martinus said that having cosmic consciousness as he did, he said, it's wonderful to have, but bear in mind, I'm no exception. Every human being on this planet is on the road to achieving cosmic consciousness. It's just a question of when. And it has all...
Well, when you think about it, I mean, Jesus Christ was a guy who basically woke up one day or through whatever and realized that he was going to spread a message about love and passion and hope. And Buddha was the same way. These are all people that had really, to one degree or another, a cosmic awakening.
Yeah, Martinus says that Jesus achieved cosmic consciousness when he was baptized in the River Jordan by John the Baptist. And there was a dove that came down, and this dove represented his cosmic consciousness. So he had cosmic consciousness just as Martinus had. But as Jesus also said, my world, my kingdom is not of this world. And of course, at the time when Jesus lived, it was a very, very primitive world, 2,000 years ago. And he said to his disciples, look, I have much more to tell you, but you cannot bear it now. But
unfortunately, the church, the Catholic Church,
they
turned it into another story. They turned it into another narrative altogether,
They used it for their own benefits.
That's right. They manipulated the whole story to turn it into
and that
theirs.
was the whole point, like getting power, getting money, getting whatever they wanted. And unfortunately, it's still here, but it's also losing, like in Denmark. Look at the Danish church. The churches are empty. Like if you're lucky if you get 5 people for a mass. It is really, really so obvious that the traditional Christianity is losing foothold at an unheard of pace.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same in Sweden, for sure.
Yes.
And in many European countries, I'm not so sure about other countries because they have other traditions and they have other religions. It's happening. And we also have what Martinus calls the New World impulse, which is a very strong spiritual energy or impulse that is shining down on the earth from the center of the galaxy with spiritual awakening. And it's already beginning to be felt on the planet in the sense that more and more people require a spiritual explanation to what is going on and a spiritual foothold, because when you're firmly footed in the materialistic science, you have nowhere to turn in your hour of need. I mean, you pick up a book of chemistry and you read, what shall I do when I have lost my loved one? You won't find the answer there. So
unfortunately, it's like, I'm not down on religion, but the point is that, if you don't have answers to existentiality and you turn to religion, it's a crutch because you don't have the real answers. No. The Big Bang doesn't tell us anything either.
No.
It's a nice theory, but it doesn't even make sense logically that one singularity suddenly resulted in the most sophisticated blueprint possible that no computer system could even figure out.
No. And the thing is that so many people today on the planet are spiritually bankrupt, and they think they can replace their spiritual yearning with stuff, swimming pools and villas and cars and jewelry and sofas and whatever.
All the stuff that you can't take with you when you're done.
Yes, exactly. And of course, I'm not saying it's not nice to have a good car, but it's not something that is of any lasting value in your life. It may last, I don't know, 10 years, 5 years, 10 years. And then you get this emptiness again. You get this vacuum saying, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Where am I coming from? And where am I going? Is there a God? Is there any meaning with life? And all those questions that Martinus answered.
Exactly. You know, I noted in your, I was reading your bio on your Amazon page, and you made a point of saying that you are no longer an atheist. What does that mean?
It means that I still don't believe in the Christian God, and that was the only God I heard about when I became a Christian. But no, but when I grew up. But once I studied the Martinus material, I believe in the cosmic God. I don't even believe in him. I know that he's there. I mean, you move from belief to knowledge when you start.
But are you talking, when you say a cosmic God, are you talking about a being, or are you talking about just a dynamic that exists in the universe?
Both, but the cosmic God is everything. The whole universe is God, and everything.
Would you say
is contained within God?
Well, when you talk about, okay, I just want to clarify this because I think it's important.
Yeah.
When you're talking about a cosmic God, are we talking about like a universal mind?
Yes, absolutely.
Same concept?
Universal mind, you can call it that. Absolutely. I don't think God cares what we call it. The absolute, the big spirit, Benny. I mean, it doesn't matter. It is just that God is such an easy and short word to use. But yes, the cosmic, the universal mind, absolutely. Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you've taken away the atheist title because now you do have a belief system, but it's based on what you have learned over the last 30 years.
Yes, exactly. That is my belief system. And it has, I've studied it to a degree that it has become who I am.
Yeah.
It's not just something that I doubt. It's me. I mean, you know what I mean.
I understand.
I don't want to sound preposterous, but it's just, it changed my life to a degree that I had never believed, I had never even thought it possible. Right?
That's great. That's great. Well, let's jump into this next pool here. We have about, I don't know, how long have we been going now? 30 minutes, roughly?
No, we've been going on for 45 minutes.
Oh, we're well into this. We usually try to keep them around 45 to 50 minutes. So I'm going to ask you a couple more questions and then
please do.
We'll wind off. So obviously we've got the background for your book, The Earth, Universe, and God in a Cosmic Perspective. That's
yes.
So tell us a little bit about the book.
My latest book.
Yeah, this one.
Yes,
just the last one.
The Earth, the Universe, and God in a Cosmic Perspective. Yes, and that book is like my major work, I think, because I try to explain the very, very big picture based on Martinus's cosmology or his spiritual science, and it is huge. It's just huge. And one of the things that Martinus underlines again and again is that the structure of life is that we have living beings alive in other living beings, in other living beings. So we know that inside our bodies, we have trillions of small living beings. We have our organs, we have molecules, we have atoms, cells, and they are all living beings. And inside those small living beings, there are other living beings. And we are also living on a living being, the Earth. The Earth is alive. The Earth is not a dead lump of matter, such as our materialistic sciences want us to believe. They think that we are responsible for the climate of the Earth. But that is far from the case. The real responsible factor for the climate is the sun. And at the moment, there are huge explosions on the sun, the so-called sunspots. And they are so active right now that many people can actually feel it, and they feel tired and confused. And I mean, that is the main factor of the climate on this planet and the Earth itself as a living being. Like, you know, we regulate our temperature when we have a fever. So does the planet. I mean, we should not for 1 second think that we rule that we run the climate here.
So
Just
is
preposterous.
this part of what you espouse in the book, in the new
Yes,
book?
that's what I write about. And the population of the size of the population of the Earth, and the meaning of like the Earth, just like we have an aura, which is our consciousness. The Earth has a consciousness, which is its magnetic field that sits around it. And science has wondered, as for as long as it has existed, what is this magnetic field? The magnetic field of the Earth is its consciousness, and the Earth is a very advanced living being that has lived for billions of years. It is so old, and we have this idea that extinct is forever. But it's not. It is not, because as the Earth evolves, it attracts different physical beings to live on its surface. So when a polar bear can no longer find a good habitat to live on this planet, it reincarnates on a different planet in its next life that is colder, that is better for its life condition. And I mean, the universe is teeming with life, believing that this little planet, this little speck of dust, as the Earth is the only place with life on it, is just preposterous, simply preposterous.
Well, I agree with you completely on that. In several of my books, I say the exact same thing.
Yeah,
It's kind of
exactly.
like,
I mean,
it's almost arrogant of humanity to even consider
absolutely,
that this little
absolutely
speck,
arrogant. Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
yeah.
That's a great. Now, I don't want you to tell us a lot about the book, because we want to encourage people to pick it up and read it. It is available on Amazon and other
Oh
sites.
yes,
Right?
yes, as it is.
When was it published? What year?
It was published last year in 24, I think.
2024. Okay. We'd love to review that book and feature it.
Oh, I would love you to review it. Please do. It's very cheap now. It's the Kindle version is only $2.95 now on Amazon, because we're doing a promotion.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back with you. The guys on the iWick, that won't necessarily be me, but they'll contact you and see if you want to get
Thank you. Of course.
review of that done. All right, so here's my final question for you. I'd love to go on forever, because we have completely parallel views of a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah.
You're an experienced author, so what advice, if you were talking to a novice author or a group of novice authors, what would be the one thing you'd tell them?
I tell them that this is not the only life we live. Forget the one life theory. And remember that you reap as you sow, because what you sow in one lifetime, like say you go out and kill somebody, and you don't get that karma back in this life. And people would say, well, there's no justice in the world, because this guy, he went and shot that other guy, and he never got anything. He was never punished for it. But karma sown in one life can only come back to you in a later life. So the absolute strictest justice rules the universe. Everything you sow, you will reap.
Exactly. So then basically, for a new author, that you could also interpret what you just said as to also mean that don't fixate on just the now. Whatever you write is going to sort of echo down the corridors of time. I didn't get that. Sorry. For a new writer, like you can get a little caught up in the fact, oh, I'm not getting any book sales, or I'm not getting, or maybe you just focus on trying to write stuff that people are interested in right now. But a lot of the authors tell me when I interview them on the podcast, they say, write the stuff that you want.
Exactly. I totally agree.
Because that is the thing that's going to have, it's just going to echo down the corridors of time, as I said.
Yeah,
it's
of
not
course.
going to be.
You have to write and to be true to what you want to say.
Exactly.
And I have definitely, and I think it's such an important point, and Martinus actually says this, the biggest challenge facing humankind at the moment, it is to become knowledgeable about the law of karma, because people I don't want to mention names, but if I say dictators, you probably know who I'm talking about. They think that they can just shoot other people and throw bombs, and it will never affect their own lives. And it's like looking at a horror show when you realize that all this killing, all this bloodshed will come back to them in their future lives. And it has to take many lives for them to get all the bloodshed back. And it's like, think about what you sow. Sow only what you would like to reap. Think of it.
I guess I mean, what you just said there, that's our reconciliation. That's how we can know that, and because we can't change necessarily all of that right away, but we know that ultimately they're going to get what they deserve. It
will take time. It will take centuries, but it will happen. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to name names. We know who they are.
Yeah.
Elsa, it's been a great talk. I mean, my God, like I said, I could go on for another hour because
so could I, no problem.
But yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to post this podcast on our podcast page at the IWIC platform. So basically, you can refer people to it all the time. It'll always be there for people
to
view.
Thank you. Yes.
Secondly, is we'll send you a copy of the podcast interview so that you can put it up on your own website.
Oh, brilliant! Yes, I have my website.
And yeah, definitely get back to the IWIC guys about getting your book featured and reviewed, because I think
yeah, that would be really great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we're going to end it here. Thank
Sorry
you,
about
Else Byskov.
the mess up. Yeah.
From Denmark. Have a great week.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye.